How do you combine files from multiple worksheets into a single report? The process of doing that is leveraging the concept of Power Pivot in Excel and also creating an advanced pivot table. In summary, you're going to learn how to create a star schema, a data model, identify primary key to foreign key relationship, and create a report whereby you will pick a column here in a fact table and connect it with a column in a dimension table. All practice files are available for you to download and follow along, and this is not beginner Excel, this is intermediate to advanced Excel. What is a fact table? If you look at this data over here, this is NHS data, simulated NHS data, with all information regarding to cost, regarding to length of stay, and regarding to the metrics, the numerical performance of the business is all in here. Facts table stores event. Event is what happened. You can see this data is telling us when a patient visited the hospital. Take a look at these tables. These are no longer fact tables. These are now dimension table. They tell you how many facilities you have, how many treatment categories you have, how many doctors you have, and how many patients you have. Dimension tables don't store events, so our objective is to learn how we can pick events that happened to find, for example, the total cost of all the doctors that are treating our business or treating performance or treating patients in this hospital. I want to open up a very important document, okay, which for you to practice, because before you dive into analysis, you must understand the reason behind your analysis. So in summary, the board of directors for this NHS trust want to carry out a 5-year patient activity review, and the objective is to inform capacity planning, look for how to reduce cost and improve quality. So the analysis at the end of the day should improve on treatment infrastructure, facility performance, readmission reduction, and patient outcome. The data here has 5 objectives, so you can download and look at it. But the objective of this video is for you to learn how I am going to combine all of these 4 separate worksheets into a single report. Without further ado, let's dive into the video. This video is sponsored by Intelligence with Data, and it would be good if you would like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends who are interested in data analytics. The first step I'm going to create is a blank workbook, because I want to have this workbook connect to all of the files that I've been given into. What I'm going to do right now is to click on the Data tab and click on Get Data, and my file is an Excel workbook. It's very important that you know the type of file you are given. Is it a flat file? That is a CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated value. Or is it an Excel workbook? My file is an Excel workbook. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect to the location of that file in my computer. I have them in a folder called internship. So I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to locate that file. So I've located the file. I have my dimension table here. I'm going to click on dimension table, and the action is called import. That is going to open up a new interface for us called Power Query. Power Query is the ETL engine, the extract, transformation, and loading engine that is available in both Excel and Power BI. What this does is give you the option to select all of the data that will be imported into Excel cache's memory. So this file is going to be imported into the memory. I'm going to select all of the 4, and you can see I need to do some data transformation on them before I load it into Power BI. This is not beginner Excel, so you might want to pay attention and look at all the steps I'm going to follow. The objective is to combine multiple worksheets together to create a star schema and a data model relationship. How my data is structured here is how it's going to be analyzed. So I need to carry out some transformation. You can see here that the columns are not correct. It's supposed to carry this data in row 1. So I'm going to click on this option button here and click on use first row as headers. There are multiple ways to carry out that same action. You could go into the transform tab and click on use first row as headers here, or while you are on the home tab, you can also click use first row as headers. So you have about 3 options to carry out the same action. You need to look at all of your data here to see if you have at least 100% quality. So I have a column quality profile, and if you don't have yours, all you have to do is click on the view tab and check the column quality box. So I just turned it off and I'm going to turn it back on. What it's going to do check for me is to tell me that I have 4% empty and I have 96% valid data. So I have a row 26 here, which is all null, and row 27, which is just telling me that there are some data issues in this data. So I'm going to filter out only these 2 rows out. How do I filter that? On this column ID, the primary key, doctor ID, that is the primary key, I'm going to uncheck null and also uncheck this box, this row here, so that those 2 rows will not be exported into data for analysis. I have a data quality issue where oncology is spelled wrongly, so I need to replace that value with the correct spelling of oncology. You saw how I did it. Right click and I'm going to click oncology and click on OK. So we can also carry out some other transformations here whereby we will want to make all of the values in here to be all uppercase, lowercase. That is going to be a video for another session. The objective is for me to show you how you can connect multiple data into a single report. So very important before you move is to ensure that you have 100% data. So in this years of experience whereby we have null values here, what I will do to handle this null value is to replace the null value with the average ages of all of the doctors. So one trick I will do is, how do I get the average ages of all of the doctors? I will first of all remove the null values so that I'm left with all the ages of all doctors. Then I will go into the home tab and click on, I think it's a transform, yeah. Click on the transform tab. In statistics, I'll select average. So the average age is 15.9. Let me just say 16 years. So that's what that's my answer. In the applied steps, I'm going to delete those 2 steps I created. So I'm back to where I was 2 steps before. I will now right click on the null value, click on replace, and I want to replace that with 16 years. So that's balanced. So I have 100% valid data. Very important is to define your data types. So what are data types? Those are the structure of data in each column that is appropriate for the data you are importing into Power BI, into Excel. Beg your pardon, Power BI is a lot of, it's one of my specialty. So you can see in doctor name, we have all text. So the data type here is ABC text, all right? And for the ages, we have, it should be whole number, not decimal. Okay, so we're just going to glance through all that. So I'm not particularly about data quality. I just want to run through all of the files and show you how we can do that as well. So I'm going to use first row as headers here. I'm just going to promote all of that. And very important in your dimension tables, your dimension table must not have duplicates. You don't want to have a doctor name appearing twice. So on the doctor ID, that is the column or the primary key. That's the column you have to remove duplicates. So I'm going to right click and click on remove duplicates. So I'm very sure that there are no duplicate records for my doctors and as well for my facilities. So do I have 100% valid data? I do. Are the data types correct? They are. Patient dimensions, how many patients do I have? I'm going to quickly do some data quality issue as well. Use first row as headers. Patient ID, I'm going to promote the first row as headers again. Okay, then I'm going to remove duplicates on the patient ID, and gender is going to, I have some null values here, male, female, or gender. So I can replace that null value with NA, for example. That's better, not available. Age group is okay. Just when you're doing this, just pay good attention on your data types. For treatment as well, I'm going to use first row as headers, and I'm going to remove duplicates on the treatments. All right, so all of these dimensions now have been cleaned to my satisfaction. I'm now going to load, close and load. This is very important. To create a data model, you don't close and load straight up. You have to close and load too, because we have multiple options. This is where the power of Excel comes into play. I am going to not select any of these options. I'm only going to click create connection because I want to create a data model, and data model only happens in Power Pivot. So I'm not going to load as a table, only create a connection, and I was supposed to check that box, add data, add to data model. So I forgot to do that. So I have to go back, right click on the doctor dimension, click on load to, and check this box, add data to data mode, add this data to data model. And I'm also going to do the same for the other four data. If I had selected that option at the beginning, at that earlier phase, I will not have to repeat all of these steps again. So load to, add data to data model. So all my 4 files have now been imported into memory. Where are they? Where are they? This is where they are. They are in the data model. So whilst you're on the data tab as well, you click on data model and click on manage data model. If you haven't activated it for the first time, you just have to click on apply or run or whatever command Excel gives you. These are all of our files now in data model. Why do we use data model? Why do we have to bring it into Power Pivot? It's because this is a feature or the engine in Excel that can handle more than the 1,048,000 rows that is available in your Excel worksheet. If you have 5 million rows, 10 million rows of data, and you want to analyze them, you want to view them, you want to transform them, you bring them into Power Pivot because this can handle up to 100 million rows. I've clicked on the diagram view, so my dimension table are in here, and I can now create a relationship between all of them. My fact table is very important, so I need to bring my fact table in as well. So over here is where I'm going to switch to workbook in the top left corner. And I will repeat the process again to bring in my fact table. Let's bring in the fact table now. So I will repeat the process where I go to click on the data tab, click on get data. Excel can connect to data from multiple sources, okay, from database, from Azure, from your PDF file, from the internet, from your Office SharePoint drive, so on and so forth. But if you have a file that has been downloaded into your computer, that's what we're going to use for this case, Excel workbook. So right now I'm going to select the fact table, which has all the numerical values and the date of events. So when the patient visited, when they checked out, number of days they spent. It has columns that I can aggregate to produce my report. So this is a navigator window. I will check on this date here, and this is a preview of my data. Of course, I need to transform because I need to make sure that the data is cleaned, my data type is correct. And very important, you must know when you have identified your fact table, do not delete duplicates, because fact table stores events. A patient might come in on a particular day, be discharged, and come back on that same day or a different date. That's not a duplicate. That's just a record of events. So as usual, we need to identify all column headers are appropriately correct. And I need to just check my data types. One professional tip I use is to click on the transform type and click on detect data type here. So you're going to apply all of that at once. And if you're getting value from this class, from this session, like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family so that we can grow the knowledge and this beautiful channel. So all data have been connected now. It's now time for me to close and load. Close and load to. And the preview is going to pop. I'm going to check this box, only create a connection, and add this data to a data model and click on OK. Next is to switch into or launch Power Pivot. And now that I've launched Power Pivot, this is my fact table. And what is Star Schema? A Star Schema is a type of data model. And what is data model? Data model is process of creating a relationship between multiple tables for easier performance reporting and for report generation as well. So this is what a Star Schema looks like. It's just a structure of your tables where your fact table sits in the center of your model and your dimension tables are apportioned or are arranged around it. So how do we create a relationship? We look for identify identical columns. Identical columns. So this is a visit ID. This is a primary key in the fact table. Look at the patient ID. A patient ID here is a foreign key because it is not in its original table. The patient ID here in the patient dimension is the primary key because it's acting as the commander-in-chief. But the patient ID in the fact table is acting as a foreign key. Let me call it second in command. So if you click and hold and drag the identical columns on top of each other, you're going to create a relationship between it. So I have duplicates in the patient dimension table. So that's why I have that error. But let me connect with the treatment ID onto the treatment dimension. So that has been connected. So there's only one treatment ID that connects to the fact table where there are multiple instances of those treatments happening. So for example, we have a disease called malaria and we have a prescription for that. And how do you prescribe that treatment? The cost for the treatment is all stored in this table. And we apply that treatment onto many patients who come to the hospital and are diagnosed of malaria and they are treated. That's what this asterisk means. So doctor dimension will connect as well to the doctor fact table. So we have one doctor record here, and these are all the information regarding that doctor. But that doctor is appearing multiple times because one doctor can attend to multiple patients. Facility ID will connect also to the facility ID. Then I need to go back to Power Query to remove duplicate on this patient dimension. So I'm going to go back, patient dimension, right click on edit, and identify the patient ID column, right click and remove duplicates. Okay, we have to still check. We're supposed to get 200 patients, but we're getting 201. So we have an empty record here. So I'm going to right click and empty. I want to remove the empty, remove duplicates for me. Let's see how that's gonna work. So I'm going to click on the filter and remove empty. Okay, we don't need any empty records. So we have 200 patients identified. And you can see here that because we have this column distribution, which can be turned on when you check this box, column distribution, it tells us that there are 200 distinct and 200 unique. So we have 200 instances where the data appears only once and doesn't have duplicates. All right, so that's fine. Even this one that has an empty, we can remove all of that. But I just want to show you the process of connecting data to create a star schema, and we can create our reports. So I'm going to close and load. So that's Power Query. That's what you use to extract your data from multiple sources, transform your data, change data types, quality, clean it, and you load that data into your Excel. That's the ETL phase. Power Pivot, which can be launched from data model and manage data model, is used to create the relationship between your multiple data sources. So you can have all of your data in one place and you can create your reports. So patient ID is going to go on to patient ID now, and there should be no duplicates. That's correct. And this is the beauty of all we have been doing. We're going to click on pivot table here. And let's have the pivot table. If I want it in a new worksheet, that'll be fine. I have an existing worksheet here. So let me just check this existing worksheet and put the pivot table here in sheet 1 and click on OK. So this is the objective of today's class, where I have all the separate files now connected into a single view. What is the beauty of this report? If we want to create if we want to look at how we can help the business, right? So let's look at treatment categories and the cost of the treatment categories. Let's create that report here. We look for the column that have treatment. So we go into the treatment dimension. Okay. So let's look at the category here and we drag it into the rows. These are all the treatment categories and we look for the cost. The cost is not in the dimensions. I told you dimensions don't store numerical values that can be aggregated. It's in the fact table. Then we look at the cost. We drag this cost into the values and that aggregates it. Okay? That's how. Now we can also check the average. So we can click on the sum, bring it down here, and right click on this values, show summarize values by. Okay, I don't see average. We're going to do the average of that by going to do a sum and a count on that. I'll show you how to do that later. So let's create another report. Let's look at patient. So let's copy this one out. Click on copy, another pivot table, and instead of treatment now, let me uncheck treatment. Let's go to doctors and look at doctor names and the cost as well. So these are the doctors whose treatments are driving the highest cost across the entire business. We can change our data type so we can see all of the currency all appear up in here. And for this, so this is a summary of the objective of this class. We can go on to answer multiple questions. You can go on to create a lot of reports. And when you have built your relationship in this way, you can write data analysis expressions called DAX. These are calculations that are beyond the scope of Excel, meaning you can manually write your own calculations to answer your business reporting. And that's the beauty of when you create a data model. If you've been having value, you've learned a lot, like, follow, subscribe so you can continue gaining more value from this class. So let me show you how we're going to change this value to show us the average. So if you are creating your typical pivot tables, when you come over to summarize value bar, you're going to see all the average. But because you've now created a data model that value, for you to see the average, you have to go into the value field settings and click on average and click on OK. So this is the average cost of cardiology treatment over the last 5 years. We have 5 years of data. One important thing we need to learn how to do when you create a data model is to create a date table. To create a date table, I will attempt to create that for us. And before you go, you can always double click and delete the titles of your columns. That's a trick. You can always double click and delete the title of your columns. All right, so I'm going to end the class here, end the video here. The next series is going to launch into creating a calendar table for time intelligence analysis, where you can look at costs and its performance versus last year, versus last month, week on week, month on month, year on year, same period last year, those kind of analysis. That's what we're going to go into. But this is data modeling with healthcare analytics part 1. If you want to see part 2, drop a comment in the chat box, and if I get at least 10 comments for the part 2, I'm going to launch that out as well. Take care of yourself, happy data crunching, and see you in the next one.